Hey guys, welcome to Compare Return, where our job is to connect expats with experts. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about citizenship via investment versus financial planning, which is really just the case for not wasting your money. So CVI, citizenship via investment, is a hot topic for 2019 and 2020. You can't go anywhere without seeing videos and online blogs and comparisons all around the market. Everyone seems to have a website and everyone seems to have a solution. So some of them actually make quite a good investment case, and some of them are truly horrific and definitely not something that I as a financial planner would advise my clients to do. So today's video is really just about how to approach CVI purely from a financial planning perspective. How do I make sure that my client is achieving their financial goals and retirement goals, and whatever piece of paper comes attached to that at the end of the day is really just a bit of icing on the cake. So today I want to talk about what we're looking for growing the client's money, and this is an actual case study. So this is a client of mine who's South African, so it's from South Africa. He's looking to get out around 10 million rand. For today's case, we'll call it 400,000 euro. He's concerned about the downgrade in South Africa and what that's going to do to the currency, and he's already been proposed a solution, which was Mauritius. And so really today's comparison is just my investment perspective from Portugal versus the solution being provided by Mauritius. Now, in this case, I must say that the Mauritius solution was put forth by his tax planner, who he's got a lot of trust in. The tax planner is definitely a genuine person and above board. And the reason why he was proposed that was because that was a system that he thought would fit for the client. So today's one is really about how I would structure this for the client and what differences we can do. Some of the other systems, you've got Grenada, St. Lucia, Kitts and Nevis, you've got everywhere in the world, basically Portugal, Spain, Italy, UK. There are so many options out there. So it is kind of really hard to sort the wheat from the chaff. And this is how I do it. So for myself, you want to look at this. So most fund investing, this is the approach. Most fund investing is from bottom up. So that's looking at, say, companies, price to earnings ratios, who's on the board, is the sector going to grow? That's how people approach funds. For me, with CVI, for my clients, it's a top-down approach. So I'm looking at 4 key points. So 4 key points for how I structure the investment case, not so much the CVI case. So the first point is principal currency. So if they're looking to, what's the minimum? Is it 200,000? Is it 400,000? What's the minimum and where it's going to be? In this case, the principal currency is very important. Mauritius rupees versus Portugal, which is euro. For me, that's a clear case. Can you imagine if they had the Venezuelan citizenship via investment and you put in 10 billion, trillion, zillion dollars in a hyperinflation environment and your money's just gone? Whereas euro is a much more stable currency. So it's a big tick there for Portugal. The second one is property owners' rights. So you don't want to end up in a situation where if it's more socialist leaning governments where the tenant has all the rights, and we're seeing this in certain areas of France and other countries where you've got tenants living in properties and they can't kick them out, they have squatters come into whole buildings, and it becomes very difficult. You want to make sure that if you're going to be using citizenship via investment and it comes with a property, you want to make sure that property is in a country where there's good, strong governance and a good political base there. The third one is access to capital. So that's mortgages. Whenever you're setting out to have a good investment strategy, mortgaging, leveraging, financing, access to capital is always a very important part of that larger planning. So if you're in a country like Australia, for example, access to expat loans in Australia is incredibly difficult. So that really does shrink down your options, and it's not going to allow me to be able to build the client a good 10-year plan. And finally, it's taxation in the changing landscape. Is this going to be a country which is a fledgling country where their tax systems are changing all the time? Or is it possibly going to be in a country which taxes expats different to residents? Are you going to need to stay in that country for the rest of your life just to make sure you're appeasing the tax structure? Another classic example of that right now in 2020 is the main residency exemption for capital gains tax in Australia. Now, if you're an Australian expat or if you're an international property purchaser in Australia and you move out, you're not getting that discount. In that case, Portugal's had a very rigid structure for quite a while, income taxation on a scaling system up to 30%, very traditional tax architecture. Mauritius was 0, then it was 1, then it was 3, then it was 5, then it was 15%. So it seems to be a bit more of a moving target and not quite as pinned down. So in that regard, from my judges, leave in the comments section if you've got some feedback for other countries which you think fit these 4 categories and might even be better. But for me, it breaks it down to really Ireland, the UK, Germany and Portugal as good case studies that fit those 4 different things, which is the principal currency, property owners' rights, access to capital and the taxation landscape for my clients. And out of those 4 countries, which is Ireland, UK, Germany and Portugal, guess which one happens to have the golden visa structure and the permanent residency? Happens to just be Portugal. So now we're building a good property investment case which happens to just tick the box for the client. We're not CVI sales agents. I'm a financial planner, so the finance is really what I'm focusing on for the client. 5 years to permanent residency in Portugal. I think it's a 1-year visa, then a 2, then a 2. I believe you only have to spend 1 or 2 weeks there a year, so it's actually really easy. Lovely country, Euro, Schengen, so it's ticking a lot of boxes already as far as just a good residency to have, especially for my South African clients. So now that we've got the country which ticks all 4 boxes, the next question is where do we buy? So that's really what property, whereabouts, really just comes down to supply versus demand. Whenever you're buying an investment property, that shouldn't be something which is too difficult. Be very cold and calculating. Look at this as just numbers on the paper. Doesn't matter whether it's near the beach or not near the beach, white picket fences, all the kind of things that your parents tell you where to look for buying a house. Throw all that away. Let's look at just what makes a good case. In this regard, city. Which city? Look at the population growth, look at the supply of properties versus that population growth, and then also look at corporate expansion. Things like, if a Microsoft or an Amazon or a BBC move into that city, that's going to create a whole heap of jobs, and those people who are working in those jobs are going to need somewhere to live. Classic example of that up in Liverpool and Manchester and even Birmingham in the UK at the moment. Massive explosion in that area, and there's a huge undersupply. So that's where we're looking at. So that's really at the top level for the property purchase, which is the city. Then we drill down 1 level below, which is which neighbourhood. And that really comes down to schools. We've seen some countries have certain laws where your children can only go to school in the neighbourhood they live in. But the other thing is public transport. Is it going to be near public transport? Does it make a good investment case? So now we've got the 4 integers for being able to pick the country, and we've got where we're looking for the property. So we're already starting to build a pretty good investment case in comparison to some CVIs, which is just like, give a government a $200,000 donation, which you might as well just take that money and set it on fire. So we're doing pretty good so far. Now let's look at the investment cases numbers on the board. Client comes in with €400,000. What we can do there is, because we've got access to capital, we can now leverage. So we can get 3 properties, all at around 133,000 each. We can leverage them roughly, loan to value lending. It depends on the bank or a lot of different factors. But say for example we get 3 properties, 400,000 a piece. So now we've taken the client's €400,000 and we've turned it into €1.2 million. And because we're in euro, it's actually quite surprising. The interest rates is only about 2.4% because obviously the Eurozone's a low interest rate solution. So now we've got a structure where the yield is around 6%, which is a very strong yield, and the interest rate's quite low. So that's lowering the risk for the client, which is also very good. But we've also got a system immediately where they're going to be getting money coming in the front door. Which is fantastic. So this is going to help their retirement structure. So when they want to kick back on the beach in Portugal, they're not having to worry because they've already got an income stream coming in. And then if they want to live in the 3rd property, well, guess what? They've got a primary abode as well. And then guess what? At the end of this, after 10 years with capital growth, we can now take the client's $400,000, turn it into €1.2 million, grow that over a 10-year period, and we're walking out the door for the client at €2.4 million. which is all of a sudden making an incredibly strong investment case rather than going back by 200, 300,000 euro at the start, picking exotic currencies in small GDP countries. This is a large GDP country in a euro currency with a very strong investment case. And then the final thing you need to make sure of is that your financial planner who you're working with can do their job. They're doing the correct due diligence. They need to find you a developer, they need to find you a property, right down to things like furniture packs, lawyers, contract exchanges, stamp duties. Are they going to find you a tenant? And also, are they going to be there at the end of the process to sell the property for you in 5 years, 10 years time? So you need to be working with a financial planner who's either got a very good network or is a very diligent worker. So that's also an important thing. So now we've ticked all the boxes. We've turned $400,000 into euro into 2.4 million over a 10-year period. And guess what? At the end of that, we've got a Schengen visa in their hand with a golden passport and permanent residency. So that's how I approach citizenship via investments, purely from a financial planning perspective. Hope this helps and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.